Greetings, divine blessed loved ones. Paisley Parvati Devi here. Just enjoying the August heat. It's very humid and warm during this time of year in the Midwest where I am currently. And I've just spent the morning dancing and feeling really great. I hope that you're feeling wonderful too today. So last week I introduced our weekly philosophy discussions. We will be every single Tuesday talking about a different section from this book, the Yamas and Niyamas, Exploring Yoga's Ethical Practice by Deborah Adele. I had gone through the entire book over on my Facebook timeline, and now I am coming here with it. I will also be uploading each video onto YouTube after each one is finished, so we'll have an archive of all of the readings. So if you missed the reading last week, you can scroll down on the Facebook page to find it. Again, it's just the introduction, or you're welcome to go to my YouTube channel, and my link is in my Linktree link, which is link. My link is in my Linktree link, which is in the bio for the Facebook page. It's also on my personal Facebook bio. So settling in wherever you are, just taking a moment to come into the present, into your body, closing the eyes if it's practical, just setting aside whatever else you're up to for the next few moments. These readings typically go about 40 minutes. You can do something else as you listen to the rest of the reading, but just for this moment, let's close the eyes and turn inward. Inhaling slowly and exhaling fully. Slow, deep inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. Let it out with a sigh. One more, inhaling and exhale. Release it. Hi Bailey. I can't see who else is on here. It's telling me too, but it only tells me some people's names for some reason. So coming into a place within yourself that is calm and still, opening your heart to receive these teachings from the ancient science of yoga, and opening the mind, trusting that if anything does not click or make sense right away today, the seed will be planted and what needs to be understood at this moment will come through. So again, we're reading from the Yamas and Niyamas, Exploring Yoga's Ethical Practice by Deborah Adele. Now, what are the Yamas and Niyamas? So if you're completely new to yoga philosophy, they are basically a set of guidelines or principles, a code of ethics for how we want to live our lives. And the first 5 tenets or principles are called the Yamas. They are could be translated to the restraints or actions or behaviors that we need to restrain in order to attain inner peace. And the yamas relate more to how we interact with other people and the outside world. And then the last 5 tenets, the niyamas, can be translated to observances or actions to be cultivated in order to attain inner peace. And the niyamas have more to do with our internal interactions with our own inner experience. So today we are starting the book officially. Last week I read the preface and the introduction, and if you're interested in seeing that video, again, you can check it out on the Facebook timeline or on YouTube. And today we begin with the first tenet, the first yama, which is called Ahimsa, and that translates into nonviolence. In the Karate Kid movies, Mr. Miyagi at first appears to be a silly, rather harmless little old man to 17-year-old Daniel. Mr. Miyagi is humble and unpretentious. He sits around for hours trying to catch flies with chopsticks, tends his bonsai trees, and doesn't even seem to bat an eye when provoked. But as the movie progresses and bullies threaten both Daniel and Mr. Miyagi springs... Sorry about that, I got a phone call in the middle of the stream. Okay. So Mr. Miyagi springs into defensive action. Daniel's eyes are opened to the incredible ability of this old man, who skillfully takes on a team of karate opponents larger and younger than he is. From that point on, Mr. Miyagi becomes Daniel's mentor in the art of skillful defense, true friendship, and the art of living. Nonviolence may appear to us like Mr. Miyagi first appeared to Daniel. It can look so passive and unimportant that we easily ignore its presence and the subtleties of its power, wondering what all the fuss is about. And yet, in Eastern thought, nonviolence is so valued that it stands as the very core and foundation of all yoga philosophy and practice. It is as if the yogis are saying that if we don't ground our lives and actions in nonviolence, everything else we attempt will be precarious. All of our achievements and successes, hopes and joys, stand on faulty ground if they do not stand on the foundation built by nonviolence. I'll say that again. All of our achievements and successes stand on faulty ground if they do not stand on the foundation built by nonviolence. Because otherwise we're building them on a foundation of something other than nonviolence, which would possibly be violence or inadvertent violence or subtle violence of some sort. Because the thing about these philosophies is they start at the gross level, the most obvious level. So the most obvious form of nonviolence is to literally not kill beings, and I think most of us would hopefully say that it's easy not to kill other humans. But think about it on a subtler level, like, for example, killing animals in order to eat their meat, or killing any kind of like pests or ants in your home. And then if you go even subtler than that, are you causing violence within your words? Are you saying hurtful things that cause pain to others? Are you causing violence with your actions? Are you doing something that maybe doesn't physically hurt someone, but it still emotionally or mentally harms them? And then the subtlest level is your thoughts and intentions. So maybe you're not actually doing anything to hurt someone, maybe you're not saying or acting in a way that would hurt someone, but even your thoughts, because your thoughts carry such a powerful vibration that if your thoughts still contain the violence, then that's going to subtly vibrate on that frequency, the same frequency of violence. So we can really dive into any of these concepts and take them deeper and deeper as we continue to study. So killing and doing physical harm are grosser forms of violence that are easily seen and understood. However, nonviolence has many subtle implications as well. When we feel hurried, afraid, powerless, out of balance, and harsh with ourselves, we may find ourselves speaking words of unkindness or even exploding with a violent outburst. As our awareness of these nuances grows, we learn that our ability to be nonviolent to others is directly related to our ability to be nonviolent within ourselves. Excuse me. Our inner strength and character determine our ability to be a person of peace at home and in the world. Isn't that beautiful? I found that to be so true. Our ability to be nonviolent to others is directly related to the ability to be nonviolent to ourselves. If I can treat myself with all the kindness and care and understanding and love that is possible, then it's a lot easier to extend that same kindness and love and level of compassion to others. But if I'm always being really harsh on myself and critical and mean, having super high unrealistic expectations of myself, then that tends to spill out into our interactions and our relationships. Our inner strength and character determine our ability to be a person of peace at home and in the world. In the Karate Kid movies, Daniel did not go to karate school to study. Instead, he became skilled at karate by learning how to move through the daily chores of waxing cars, sanding wood, and painting fences. In much the same way, we grow our capacity to be nonviolent by learning how to move through everyday challenges of life and by addressing the things that precipitate our tendencies toward violence. Ahimsa, or nonviolence, literally to do no harm, calls forth from us our most brilliant and best self. Our capacity to be nonviolent depends on our proactive practice of courage, balance, love of self, and compassion for others. We only have to look around us to see that fear abounds. It abounds in cowardly faces that turn away, in violent attacks, in walls of protection, in bins of possessions, in numerous unkind words and gestures. In an abundant world, hoarders take more than their share, leaving others lacking. Wars are started and fought to seize the goods and keep the power. All around the world, children's innocence is destroyed by abuse and horror. If we look closely, we can trace all of these acts of greed, control, and insecurity back to their root, fear. Fear creates violence. If we are to begin to address these fears, we need to know the difference between the fears that keep us alive and the fears that keep us from living. The first kind of fear is instinctual and built into us for survival. The second kind of fear is fear of the unfamiliar. The unfamiliar can become an abundant place for exploration once we realize this fear lives only in our imagination. It is only our minds that have created the turmoil in our gut and keep us hostage to the possibility of our own lives. Right? Because fear is what creates violence. And fear exists only in our minds. An example of fear that lives only in the imagination might be skydiving. For me, the thought of jumping out of a plane at high altitude and remembering to open my parachute somewhere along the way sends cold shivers down my spine and giant rumblings of fear in my gut. All of this is happening in my body in this very moment, and yet I have never experienced this activity. For me to walk into this fear, I would first imagine a different scenario for myself, something that looks like adventure and fun, something where I am competent and collected as I jump from heaven to earth. And then, where I really step into my challenge, I would call a pilot. And then where I really to step into my courage, I would call a pilot. Seeking out people and experiences we would normally avoid provides a fertile place to learn new things about ourselves and about life. Even those we might call enemies have much to teach us. People we have previously avoided will open up new ways of thinking and will give us pieces of ourselves. As we walk into our fears with both people and experiences, we will find that our sense of self has grown. Our view has expanded. The world suddenly looks like a bigger place, and we are more competent to navigate within it. As we expand ourselves into these new places, our minds and hearts grow more open, and we have less need to be violent. Thus, to create a life and a world free of violence is first and foremost to find our own courage. So, when we embrace our fears and work into those areas of our life and those relationships that we've previously avoided, it comes with great richness, right? And great opening up and unfolding and allowing new perspectives into our lives, things that we maybe never considered before. It allows us to be more open-minded, more receptive to new ideas, and ultimately less closed off and judgmental. Even those we might call enemies have much to teach us. Thus, to create a life and a world free of violence is first and foremost to find our own courage. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to be afraid without being paralyzed. Courage is found by facing our fears, the small ones, the fat ones, the embarrassing ones, and the really big, scary ones. To live the fullness that our own life is inviting us into, we often have to let ourselves be afraid and do it anyway. If we keep ourselves safe, how will our courage grow? That reminds me of something one of my favorite tarot readers was saying this morning on YouTube. She was saying that often to live our best lives, to really engage with our best selves, our highest potential, and to meet life head on, it really requires us to step into our courage, to live the life we are meant to live and follow the path we're meant to follow. We have to be brave, because so much of the time that requires us to step out of our comfort zone, step into the unknown, and perhaps do something that is considered different, or maybe we might be judged for because it's out of the norm, right? But if it's really what is most authentic to us, we will be rewarded by that courage in the long run. One of the reasons for Gandhi's unmatched power was that he continued to stay with life. He didn't run when life got too confusing or difficult. He stayed and learned from the moment, and in the process he became a skillful leader no one could match, and a force that no one could stop. For Gandhi, fear became a stimulus to develop his courage. Courage demands our best self, and that is a self in balance. Think about the times you were short with others because of too much work to do, or too much caffeine and sugar, or a restless night of sleep. Imbalance in our systems is almost a certainty for violence, as the dis-ease we feel within finds its way to expression outwards. Balance creates harmony within us, and harmony within naturally expresses itself in external actions that are harmonious. Dr. Phil Nurenberger emphasizes the importance of balance when he says, "The deep harmony of balance is my most precious commodity, and I guard it fiercely." Creating balance in our lives is not an easy thing. We are a hungry, noisy people, bombarded with stimulation and advertisements that promise to grant us our deepest desires. If we are not on purpose with creating balance for ourselves, we can easily fall victim to false promises and fill every breathable space with appointments and activities and all the responsibilities that go with a full agenda. Can anyone else relate to that? This idea we have here in the West, or in the United States especially, that the more productive you are, the more value or worth you have as a person, the more money you make, the more value that you have, which of course isn't true. But it leads us to think that we have to do more in order to be more, and like she says, we end up filling up every spare moment of our lives with scheduled activities and agendas and meetings and commitments, and we don't take enough time just to be with ourselves and recharge. It is anti-cultural to claim any space that is simply space, or to move with any kind of lingering, or to take time for closure. We are bombarded, and we bombard ourselves. And if we have any doubts, our calendars will reveal the truth of our craziness. The repercussions are inescapable, immeasurable violence to ourselves and those around us. Like the body, the mind and soul need time to digest and assimilate. Like the body, the mind and soul need time to rest. We create this rest by allowing space that we can breathe in. Not more clutter, but more space. Space to reflect, to journal, for closure, space for imagination, and space to feel the calling of the life force within us, quieting the mind and hearing the higher self and the voice of our intuition. Balance does not look a certain way because it isn't a set standard to impose upon ourselves. It's not one size fits all. It's not something we can plan or schedule. Balance instead comes from listening to the guidance and wisdom of the inner voice. Balance will look different in each of us, and even different in each of us at different times. To be in tune with ourselves, we must get quiet and listen, and then heed this inner voice. This voice does not push or bombard or make promises. This inner wisdom simply knows that what we need to be vital, healthy, and in deep harmony. My sons and their children love the board game Risk. It is a game where all players begin with armies, which they strategically place on various countries around the world and then try to conquer the world with their armies. It is a game of strategy and skill and can be played into the wee hours of the night. What is interesting to me is that my grandchildren in playing this game have learned something important about balance. One of my grandchildren put it this way: when you see someone's army spread all over the world, it looks so impressive. Dad always starts by putting all his armies on 4 countries in a corner. It looks like no one will ever have to worry about him, but as the game gets played, the person who has spread their armies too thin is always the first to lose, and Dad always wins. Balance is like this. Spreading ourselves thin looks impressive, but in the end, we are the first to lose. The health and well-being of our body, mind, and spirit is a powerful resource, and by keeping ourselves in balance, we can stride through life with greater competence and ease. We are primed to win as we meet life from an inner place of harmony. When we are in balance, we automatically live in nonviolence. One of the biggest challenges to maintaining balance is feeling powerless. Feeling powerless leads to outward aggression in the form of frustration and anger, or withdrawal inward into depression and victimization. We fear our own power, and we often feel trapped at the sense of our powerlessness. By powerless, I mean those times we feel like we've run out of choices. We've run out of options, and we are feeling totally incompetent to deal with the challenge at hand. At these times, we may feel like a caged animal, trapped and ready to spring. Whether we respond with anger, withdrawal, frustration, or resignation, there is a way in which our mind shuts down, and if we are riding a train through a dark tunnel, we can't see anything but darkness and anxiety. Ahimsa, or nonviolence, invites us to question the feeling of powerlessness rather than to accept it. When we feel powerless, we have forgotten how much choice we really have. We have a choice to take action, and we have a choice to change the story we are telling ourselves about our powerlessness. Instead of sulking in the feeling of powerless, or in a victimized state, we can ask, what do I need to do right now to feel competent to handle this situation? How can I be empowered in this situation? During these times, we can also jumpstart ourselves by remembering past times when we successfully handled a challenging situation while remaining loving and whole, and then trying to find that feeling again. I have found 3 ways of thinking that shift me out of a feeling of powerlessness: practicing gratitude, trust in the moment, and thinking about others. When I change my approach, I'm out of the dark tunnel of powerlessness. Suddenly, in the light, I see many options. For instance, if my car breaks down at an inconvenient time, I can choose to be grateful that I am safe and have my cell phone. I can choose one of my many options for support for towing and fixing my car, and I can turn the whole situation into an adventure by perhaps riding the bus for the first time in years, or calling an old friend for a lift, and trusting that somehow all is well. Often we carry a sense of powerlessness from a childhood story. Perhaps at one time in our lives the story was true, but it probably isn't true anymore. I do many private consultations with people who are feeling powerlessness from believing an old story that they have continued to accept as true. I have come to believe that any sense of powerlessness we are feeling can be traced back to the story we are telling ourselves in the moment about the situation. We all have the choice to tell a different story and grow ourselves up to take responsibility for our lives in a new and fresh way. Situations where we feel powerless can also be opportunities to grow our skill level with life. I found my powerless issues arise with technology and mechanics. When things break down, my feelings of powerlessness can become a violent outburst or an opportunity to learn something new. So rather than seeing problems, we can look at everything as an opportunity. Even if something really bad happens and we just don't understand why it's happening, ultimately we can trust that there is a deeper reason, whether it be that we need to learn a lesson or that there's something even better in store for us, and this is just clearing the space for that something better to come through. It's some kind of learning opportunity, even if we don't understand it at the moment. I often ponder the words of Yogi Raj Achala. I excite myself with my incompetencies. With this attitude, feelings of powerlessness become opportunities to become competent rather than violent. Alright, y'all, I'm gonna stop there for today, and the wonderful thing is that she offers some little self-reflection exercises, like little challenge questions or things to ponder for the next week. So we read about half of the first chapter on nonviolence today, so I'll give you the first 2 little assignments, and if you'd like, you could reflect on them, and I'd love to hear your experience with them between now and next week when we meet again. And then after I read the rest of the chapter next week, then I'll share with you a few more. So This week, practice courage by doing one thing daily that you wouldn't normally do. If you're feeling brave, make that one thing something that scares you. If you're feeling really courageous, get excited about the fact that you're scared and you're doing it anyway. I've heard multiple times in my life that nervousness is just excitement in disguise. So if you're feeling nervous, anxious, or afraid to get out of your comfort zone and try something new, in this case, you can try to change your perspective by thinking about it as being excited to try something new. See if you can discern between fear and the unfamiliar. Watch what happens to your sense of self and how your relationships with others might be different because you are courageously stepping into unknown territory. And then also this week, guard your balance as you would your most precious resource. Don't find your balance from a place in your head of what it should look like. Instead, find guidance from the messages of your body. In this moment, do you need more sleep, more exercise? Do you need to eat differently? Do you need to pray? Do you need some variety in your life? Act on the messages of your body and explore what balance looks like for you personally and individually this week. Notice the effects on your life and on your relationships with others. So tapping into that inner voice, that intuition for guidance and following it and just seeing what happens and acting not from a place of fear, but from a place of love and an openness to experience. And yeah, the more you do it, the easier it becomes. The more often you get out of your comfort zone, the more willing you are to get out of your comfort zone, because 9 times out of 10, I promise you realize, wow, I had actually nothing to be afraid or nervous about in the first place, and I'm so glad that I forced myself out of my comfort zone, because if I had stayed in my comfort zone, I wouldn't have experienced this amazing thing or met this amazing person or faced this challenge that now I'm really proud that I faced. If anyone has a story about a time when they faced their fears and overcame that violent feeling within themselves, I would love to hear about your stories. Okay, y'all, just a few plugs before I get going. Today I am wearing some jewelry that I handmade by myself, these earrings, and these are available for sale. I'm only asking $5 for the earrings, plus another like $5 for shipping. And then this is a necklace that I wrapped with hemp, and it's a piece of coral that I found in California on the beach, and I wrapped it with this nice turquoise hemp. And it is an adjustable necklace, so it gets tight, but you can put it over your head easily. And this is available for $15 plus shipping. So if you're interested in those, I have those. I also have this necklace, and this one we can do for $15 plus shipping as well. If you would like, just send me a DM and we can talk shipping and all that stuff. Venmo's preferred, but I accept other payment methods as well. And then I have my original hand-illustrated coloring book available for sale. If you guys want to keep up with my art adventures, my Facebook art page is called Pays Days Artwork, and I'll link it as soon as I post this video. If you're watching on YouTube, it's going to be in the Linktree link that I post. So yeah, I hand drew every single one of these pages. There are 22 whimsical pages to choose from, all kinds of different little creatures and animals. Again, the theme is creatures of the earth, and they have some trippy elements like these trippy dippy mushrooms incorporated into them. And if you're interested in that, just send me a direct message and we will coordinate on how to send it to you. You have a couple different options for prices. I always feel like I've been talking forever after these videos. So thank you guys so much one more time. That was the first half of the first chapter on Ahimsa or nonviolence from this book, The Yamas and Niyamas, Exploring Yoga's Ethical Practice by Deborah Adele. And I will be coming at you with a new reading every single Tuesday. And it's always at 11 a.m. PST, 2 p.m. EST on my Facebook page, Live It to Yogini. So give that page a like if you have not already, in order to get notifications and follow along. And all of the videos will be on YouTube as well. Sending you so much love and blessings. Beautiful, sisters, brothers, and friends, siblings, folks of all genders. I love you. I'm sending you so much happiness, peace, and loving vibrations, and I will see you next week. Have a good one.